the moment alien doctors watched a human regrow a severed limb in real time. Dr. Zix Norp, chief xenobiologist of the Galactic Medical Council, prided himself on being unflappable. He'd seen things that would make lesser beings' eye stalks curl, assuming they had eye stalks, of course. But today he was about to witness something that would make him question everything he thought he knew about biology, medicine, and the universe's sense of humor. It all started when a human, because of course it was a human, stumbled into the emergency ward of the intergalactic hospital on Proxima Centauri IV. Now, humans showing up in the alien ward wasn't exactly uncommon. They had a knack for finding trouble in the most improbable places. But this one took the cake, ate it, and then somehow managed to bake a new one out of thin air. The human, let's call him Dave because every other human seemed to be named Dave, or so the alien staff had concluded, had somehow managed to get his arm caught in a quantum singularity generator. As one does on a Tuesday afternoon. I was just trying to change the light bulb, Dave explained, his voice a mixture of pain, embarrassment, and what sounded suspiciously like barely contained laughter. Dr. Zix Norp's assistant, a bright young Andromeda native named Blorp Don't Judge, it's a very respected name in the Andromeda galaxy, leaned in and whispered, "Sir, I don't think humans use quantum singularity generators for illumination." Zix Norp shot Blorp a look that clearly said, "No shit, Sherlock," in at least 17 different alien languages. Dave continued, seemingly oblivious to the silent exchange. "Anyway, next thing I know," poof, he gestured dramatically with his remaining arm. "Arm's gone. Vanished. Kaput. Sayonara, auf Wiedersehen. Arrivederci. For a moment there I thought I was armed and dangerous, but now I'm just armless." He burst into laughter at his own joke, wincing slightly as the movement jostled his injury. Dr. Zix Norp and Blorp exchanged glances. Humans and their puns, another mystery of the universe they had yet to unravel. Sir Blorp began cautiously, "You do realize you've lost an entire limb? This is a serious medical emergency." Dave looked down at the space where his arm used to be, then back at the alien doctors. "Oh, that? Don't worry about it. It'll grow back." The silence that followed was so profound you could have heard a Venusian pin drop, which, given that Venusian pins are the size of small moons, would have been quite the cacophonous event. Dr. Zix Norp's professional composure finally cracked. "I'm sorry, did you just say it will grow back?" "Yeah, sure." Dave shrugged with his one shoulder. "Happens all the time." "Well, not all the time. That would be weird. But often enough. You guys have never seen this before." The two alien doctors stood there, mandibles agape, or what passed for mandibles in their respective species. In all their years of intergalactic medicine, they had never encountered a species that could casually regrow entire limbs. But, the energy requirements, Blorp sputtered. The cellular regeneration rate. The impossibility of it all. Dave just grinned. "Watch and learn, my extraterrestrial friends. Watch and learn." And so, over the next few hours, Dr. Zix Norp, Blorp, and an ever-growing crowd of alien medical professionals watched in awe as Dave's arm literally grew back before their eyes. It started with a small nub, not unlike a lizard's tail regenerating. But unlike a lizard's tail, this nub quickly developed into a fully formed hand, complete with 5 fingers and opposable thumb. "Oh look," Dave commented casually, wiggling his newly formed fingers. "I'm armed again," he chuckled at his own joke, while the alien doctors collectively groaned. As the hours ticked by, the arm continued to grow. Muscles formed, skin stretched over the new limb, and even hair began to sprout. All the while, Dave kept up a running commentary, peppered with increasingly terrible puns. "I've got to hand it to you guys," he said, flexing his new bicep. "You're really good at standing around and watching. Is that what they teach you in alien medical school?" Dr. Zix Norp, who had been furiously taking notes and muttering about rewriting every xenobiology textbook in the galaxy, paused to glare at Dave. "I'll have you know, human, that we are conducting very important observations. This defies everything we know about biology." Dave shrugged, an action that was much more impressive now that he had 2 arms to do it with. "Hey, it's not that big a deal. You should see what happens when we lose a tooth. Now that's a story that'll really give you something to chew on." Blorp, who had been monitoring Dave's vital signs, suddenly let out a startled yelp. "Doctor, his energy readings. They're off the charts." Indeed, the monitors surrounding Dave were going haywire. Energy readings that should have been impossible for any living being to sustain were flashing across the screens. Oh yeah, Dave said nonchalantly, as if he were discussing the weather. That happens. Don't worry, I'm just a bit peckish. Got any snacks around here? Preferably something with a lot of calories. Growing an arm really takes it out of you, you know. Dr. Zixnorp, his professional curiosity overriding his exasperation, couldn't help but ask, how? How are you generating this much energy? It's beyond anything we've ever seen. Dave thought for a moment, then shrugged. Dunno. Magic of the human body, I guess. Or maybe it's all the coffee I drink. That stuff's basically liquid energy, right? Before Dr. Zixnorp could formulate a response to this baffling statement, Blorp interrupted. Sir, the regrowth, it's accelerating. True enough, Dave's new arm was now growing at an alarming rate. Bones elongated, muscles bulged, and skin stretched to cover it all in a matter of minutes. Whoa, 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 Dave exclaimed, watching his arm grow with a mixture of fascination and alarm. This is new. Usually it takes a few days, not a few hours. What kind of crazy alien hospital is this? Dr. Zixnorp, torn between scientific fascination and medical concern, frantically checked the various alien medical devices surrounding Dave. It must be the ambient energy in the hospital, he muttered. Our healing technologies must be interacting with your bizarre human biology in unexpected ways. Dave said, examining his now fully regrown arm. Neat. Say, does this mean I get a discount on my medical bill? I mean, technically, you guys didn't do anything except stand around and gawk. Blorp, who had been running additional scans, suddenly let out a noise that sounded like a cross between a gasp and a hiccup. Doctor, the human's DNA. It's rewriting itself. What Dr. Zixnorp rushed to examine the results himself. Sure enough, Dave's genetic code was shifting and changing right before their eyes, adapting and evolving in real time. Dave, for his part, seemed more concerned with testing out his new arm. He was flexing his fingers, rotating his wrist, and seemed particularly pleased with his ability to scratch his back. Oh man, you have no idea how much I missed being able to do that, he sighed contentedly. Human Dr. Zixnorp exclaimed, his professional demeanor completely shattered. Do you not understand the gravity of this situation? Your entire genetic structure is reconfiguring itself. Dave paused his contortions to look at the flustered alien doctor. Is that bad? Bad? Bad. Dr. Zixnorp's voice had risen to a pitch that made several nearby pieces of alien medical equipment shatter. It's unprecedented. It's impossible. It's pretty cool, Dave offered helpfully. Dr. Zixnorp deflated like a punctured balloon. Yes, he admitted grudgingly. It's pretty cool. As the alien medical staff continued to buzz around him, running tests and taking readings, Dave seemed to grow bored. He hopped off the examination table, much to the alarm of everyone present, and started doing jumping jacks. What are you doing? Blorp exclaimed, trying to corral the energetic human back onto the table. Testing out the new hardware, Dave replied, now moving on to push-ups. Gotta make sure everything's in working order, you know. Dr. Zixnorp, who looked like he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, managed to sputter, but we haven't finished our tests. We need to study this phenomenon. We need to understand how your species can possibly do this. Dave paused his impromptu workout to look at the distraught alien doctor. Look, Doc, I appreciate your scientific curiosity and all, but have you considered that maybe, just maybe, you're overthinking this a bit? Overthinking? Dr. Zixnorp's eye stalks were practically vibrating with indignation. You regrew an entire limb in a matter of hours. Your DNA rewrote itself. You're defying every known law of biology, physics, and common sense. Dave shrugged, an action he seemed particularly fond of now that he had two arms again. Yeah, but have you considered that maybe that's just how humans roll? The entire medical staff fell silent, staring at Dave in a mixture of awe and disbelief. Just how you roll, Blorp repeated weakly. Yep, Dave nodded sagely. We're kind of like the universe's ultimate hold my beer moment. Evolution threw everything it had at us. And we just kept saying, is that all you've got? We're basically cockroaches with opposable thumbs and a penchant for terrible puns. Dr. Zixnorp, who looked like he was seriously considering a career change, maybe something nice and simple like quantum physics or intergalactic politics, managed to ask, but how? How did your species evolve such incredible abilities? Dave thought for a moment, then grinned. Well, you see, it all started with this fish that decided it was tired of swimming and wanted to try out this new thing called land. And so for the next few hours, the alien medical staff of the intergalactic hospital on Proxima Centauri IV received a crash course in human evolution, peppered with more puns than should be legally allowed in any sector of the galaxy. They learned about how humans had evolved to withstand everything from extreme temperatures to deadly radiation, how they could survive on a diet that would kill most other species, and how they had a knack for turning even the most dire situations into opportunities for bad jokes. And that's not even getting into our ability to drink poison for fun, Dave added, to the horror of his alien audience. Poison? For fun, Blorp squeaked. Oh yeah, Dave nodded enthusiastically. We call it alcohol. Great stuff. Makes you feel invincible, though I guess in my case that's not too far from the truth. He waggled his newly regrown arm for emphasis. As the impromptu biology lesson continued, more and more alien staff gathered to listen. Word had spread throughout the hospital about the miraculous human who could regrow limbs and crack jokes in the face of what should have been a life-altering injury. But surely, one brave alien doctor ventured, surely there must be some limit to your regenerative abilities. Dave scratched his chin thoughtfully. Well, I suppose if you completely atomized us, that might do the trick. But then again, given enough time, who knows? We're a stubborn bunch, US humans. The gathered aliens exchanged worried glances. The idea of a species that could potentially reform from complete atomic destruction was unsettling, to say the least. Oh, don't look so worried, Dave laughed, noticing their concern. We're not invading anyone. Well, not on purpose anyway. We just have a habit of showing up where we're least expected and making ourselves at home. Dr. Zix, who had been silently processing everything he'd heard, finally spoke up. But why? Why did your species evolve to be so awesome, Dave suggested with a grin. Terrifying, Dr. Zix corrected. Dave's grin softened into a more thoughtful expression. Look, Doc, I get it. We humans can seem pretty scary from the outside. We're loud, we're unpredictable, and apparently we can regrow limbs like it's no big deal. But you want to know the real secret to humanity's success. The entire room leaned in, eager to hear the profound wisdom this miraculous being was about to impart. We're really, really good at not knowing when to quit, Dave said simply. The aliens blinked, or whatever passed for blinking in their respective species in confusion. That's it, Blorp asked incredulously. Your great secret is stubbornness. Dave laughed. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds kind of silly. But think about it. Every great human achievement, every leap forward, every seemingly impossible feat, it all came down to someone looking at the odds, shrugging, and saying, "Hey, I'll give it a shot anyway." He flexed his new arm, marveling at how seamlessly it had integrated with the rest of his body. This right here? This isn't some grand biological miracle. It's just another example of the human body going, nah. I don't feel like dying today, thanks. The gathered aliens murmured among themselves, trying to wrap their minds around this peculiar philosophy. But that's not how evolution works, one alien doctor protested. You can't just decide to not die. Dave raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah? Watch me in with that. He started doing one-armed push-ups with his newly regrown limb, much to the alarm of the medical staff. Stop, that Dr. Zix exclaimed. You could damage the new tissue. Dave paused mid-push-up to look up at the flustered alien doctor. Damage it? Doc, I just grew this arm from scratch in a few hours. You really think a little exercise is going to hurt it? And that, perhaps, was the moment when it truly sank in for the alien medical community. Humans weren't just another species to study and categorize. They were a force of nature, a walking, talking embodiment of the universe's tendency towards chaos and improbability. As Dave continued his impromptu workout, now incorporating his regrown arm into increasingly complex exercises, Dr. Zix turned to Blorp with a weary sigh. You know, he said, watching as Dave attempted to do a one-armed handstand, I always wondered why humans were classified as a Class X species in the Galactic Codex. Blorp, whose eyes hadn't left the spectacle before them, nodded slowly. I always thought it was because of their propensity for violence or their alarming rate of technological advancement. Dr. Zix shook his head. No, my young friend. It's because they're the universe's way of reminding us that no matter how much we think we know, there's always something out there ready to turn our understanding on its head. As if on cue, Dave lost his balance and tumbled to the floor with a crash, taking several pieces of expensive alien medical equipment with him. I'm okay, he called out cheerfully from the wreckage. Say, anyone up for a game of arm wrestling? I've got a brand new arm I'm dying to try out. Dr. Zix, Norp, and Blorp exchanged glances, a mixture of exasperation, awe, and grudging admiration in their eyes. "You know," Blorp said slowly, "I think I'm beginning to understand why the humans have a reputation for being both the most terrifying and the most fascinating species in the galaxy." Dr. Zix Norp nodded sagely. Indeed, they are walking paradoxes capable of unimaginable regeneration, and yet constantly putting themselves in harm's way. They laugh in the face of danger, make jokes about their own mortality, and seem to thrive on pushing the boundaries of what's possible. As they spoke, Dave had managed to extricate himself from the pile of broken equipment and was now examining his new arm with an almost childlike fascination. "Hey, Doc," he called out, a mischievous glint in his eye. "You wouldn't happen to have any tattoo artists on staff, would you? I've got this great idea for a sleeve." Dr. Zixnorp's eye stalks drooped in resignation. "Absolutely not. Your new limb is still stabilizing. We can't risk introducing foreign substances into the tissue." Dave's face fell for a moment before brightening again. "Fair enough. How about piercings, then?" The collective groan from the alien medical staff was almost deafening. "You know," one of the younger alien doctors piped up, "I've always wondered why humans are so fixated on modifying their bodies. Especially given your remarkable regenerative abilities, wouldn't such modifications be counterproductive?" Dave chuckled. "You're thinking too logically, my friend. We humans don't do things because they're practical. We do them because they're fun, or cool, or because someone told us we couldn't." He flexed his new arm again, admiring the play of muscles under the skin. "Besides, who says body mods and regeneration can't go hand in hand? Imagine getting a new tattoo every week, knowing it'll be gone by the next. The possibilities are endless." The aliens exchanged worried glances, clearly imagining the chaos that would ensue if humans ever decided to combine their regenerative abilities with their love for body modification. "But enough about that," Dave said, hopping to his feet with alarming energy for someone who had just regrown an entire limb. "Who's up for a field trip? I bet I could give you guys a practical demonstration of human resilience. There's got to be something fun and mildly dangerous to do around here, right?" The look of sheer panic on Dr. Zixnorp's face was almost comical. "Absolutely not. You are still under observation. We need to monitor your condition and run more tests to understand the full extent of your regenerative capabilities." Dave rolled his eyes. "Come on, Doc, live a little. Where's your sense of scientific curiosity? Don't you want to see what else this bad boy can do?" He waved his new arm for emphasis. "My sense of scientific curiosity is currently cowering in fear behind my sense of medical responsibility," Dr. Zixnorp retorted dryly. Blorp, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly perked up. "Wait a minute. If the humans' regenerative abilities are this powerful, does that mean, are humans potentially immortal?" The room fell silent as the implications of this question sank in. All eyes turned to Dave, who looked surprisingly thoughtful. "Immortal? Nah, not really," he said after a moment. "We still age, still die eventually, but we're pretty good at bouncing back from things that would kill most other species. It's like we've got a standing rain check with the Grim Reaper." He grinned at his own joke, but the aliens didn't seem to get the reference. "Oh, come on, the Grim Reaper? Death personified? Skeleton in a black robe? No? Tough crowd." Dr. Zixnorp, who looked like he was developing a headache or whatever the alien equivalent was, tried to steer the conversation back to more scientific grounds. "But surely there must be limits to your regenerative abilities. What about diseases, genetic disorders?" Dave shrugged. "Oh, we've got those too. But here's the thing, we're always working on curing them. Heck, back on Earth we're making breakthroughs in genetic engineering and nanotechnology that might make this whole regrowing limbs thing look like child's play in a few years." The alien doctors exchanged alarmed glances. The idea of humans with even more advanced regenerative abilities was unsettling, to say the least. "But don't worry," Dave added, noticing their concern. "We're not looking to become some sort of invincible superspecies or anything. We just like fixing things, including ourselves." Blorp, who had been furiously taking notes this entire time, looked up with wide eyes. "But if you can already regrow entire limbs, and you're working on even more advanced healing technologies, what's next? Regrowing your entire body from a single cell?" Dave laughed. "Now you're thinking like a human. Who knows? Maybe someday. But for now, I'd settle for a good cup of coffee and maybe a sandwich. Growing a new arm really works up an appetite, you know." As if on cue, Dave's stomach let out a growl that sounded suspiciously like a small spacecraft entering the atmosphere. The alien medical staff jumped back in alarm. "Oh, relax," Dave chuckled. "That's just my stomach." Although he patted his belly thoughtfully, I suppose with our regenerative abilities, who knows what's going on in there? For all we know, I might be growing a whole new digestive system. Dr. Zix Norp looked like he was seriously considering retirement, or possibly a career change to something less stressful, like diffusing antimatter bombs or negotiating peace treaties between warring galaxies. "All right," he said wearily. "I suppose we should get you some sustenance. But please, for the love of all that is scientifically sacred, try not to regrow any more body parts while you're eating. My research papers are already going to sound like science fiction as it is." Dave grinned. "No promises, Doc. But I'll do my best to keep all my limbs where they are. Though I've always wondered what it would be like to have a prehensile tail." The collective groan from the alien medical staff echoed through the hospital, likely setting off several sensitive pieces of equipment and possibly being mistaken for a distress signal by passing spacecraft. As they led Dave to the hospital cafeteria, all the while praying to whatever cosmic entities they believed in that human food wouldn't cause some sort of intergalactic incident, Dr. Zix Norp couldn't help but muse on the strange turns his career had taken. He had joined the Galactic Medical Council with dreams of unraveling the mysteries of alien biology, of making groundbreaking discoveries that would advance medical science across the universe. Never in his wildest dreams or nightmares had he imagined he'd end up babysitting a human who treated the loss and subsequent regrowth of a limb with all the seriousness of a mild paper cut. And yet, as he watched Dave charm the cafeteria staff into giving him extra portions, "Come on, I'm eating for two here, me and my new arm," Dr. Zix Norp couldn't help but feel a twinge of excitement. Yes, humans were chaotic, unpredictable, and frankly terrifying in their resilience. But they were also pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible, rewriting the laws of biology with every breath they took. Who knew what other miracles or headaches they might bring to the galactic community? One thing was for certain: with humans around, the field of xenobiology would never be boring again. As Dave sat down with the tray piled high with an assortment of foods from across the galaxy, some of which Dr. Zix Norp was pretty sure weren't actually edible for humans, he looked up at the assembled alien medical staff with a grin. So he said, picking up what looked suspiciously like a still wiggling tentacle, "Who wants to bet on whether I'll grow a second head from eating this?" And as the alien doctors rushed to stop him from ingesting potentially lethal alien cuisine, all while Dave laughed and made increasingly terrible puns. "Come on, guys, don't lose your heads over this, Doctor." Zix Norp realized something profound. The universe, in all its infinite wisdom and cosmic humor, had created humans not just as a species but as a punchline to the greatest joke ever told. And somehow, against all odds, they were thriving. He made a mental note to update the Galactic Codex entry for humans. Under special abilities, right after regeneration and inexplicable survival skills, he would add a new entry: ability to reduce highly trained medical professionals to exasperated babysitters through sheer force of personality. As he watched Dave attempt to juggle some round, glowing fruits with his new arm and his old arm, and possibly a few tentacles he had snuck off his plate, Dr. Zix Norp couldn't help but smile. The galaxy might not be ready for humans, but it certainly wouldn't be dull with them around. And who knew? Maybe one day they'd all look back on this incident and laugh, probably while regrowing a limb or two. The end? Or is it just the beginning of humanity's grand cosmic comedy routine?